West Tigers fans, welcome to West Tigers TV. We are live at the mic'd up studio after the West Tigers demolished the Newcastle Knights 42 points to 22 at Campbelltown Stadium this afternoon. We've reversed the batting order this week. We've got Coach's Corner up right now. I'm joined by Adel Halves on screen in Brisbane and in the studio by Rob Jr. Junior, we've got a team to be excited about this year.
We definitely do. That was probably the most complete performance we've had in a while. Hopefully, if we see some more of that, we might be able to book some finals tickets. 42
points to 22 probably doesn't do it justice. I just thought in both halves we completely dominated them.
Yeah, we absolutely smothered them. I think, with Appy off the field and then the last 7 minutes or so probably just fell asleep a little bit. They scored a couple of good tries, but in that last 5 minutes that we couldn't do much about. But just happy to get a win.
Coach, I'm not sure if you've got a crystal ball there somewhere at home, but on Tuesday's preview, you said if we hold the ball, we'll win by 20. We won by exactly 20. You said we should hammer that right-hand side of Newcastle in Greg Marzu and DeCourcy on debut, and you said Appy would have a field day with his deception around the ruck. So was there anything in the game that surprised you or you didn't expect?
I didn't expect that we'd capitalise as much as we did on their left-hand side with the ball. Obviously, especially with the late changes that happened with Tavana coming out. But, like I said, I got a text message from someone who doesn't watch the West Tigers play much, and they basically said to me that everything we asked of them to do this week at home, they did for us. So that's a big positive.
We'll try and dig into all 12 tries and break down the key aspects of the game in a minute. But, Coach, we spoke on Tuesday that breaking the hoodoo, 3 wins in a row for the first time for this club since 2018 and a massive win at Campbelltown, breaking a 5-game losing streak there.
Yeah, I think it's important for the Campbelltown, the Macarthur district. It's also important for the team. Appy and Jake Duke in an interview prior to the game talked about it. But Appy sort of tried to deflect it and talked about not being too emotional about worrying about those sort of things. But deep down, it would have been there. They would have understood it, especially we haven't won 5 straight losses at Campbelltown. So, yeah, it was really important, especially considering the fact that we get to go there again next week. If we'd lost today, even with a depleted Broncos side next week, that sort of just lingers upon us, and it's not going to be there next week. So, yeah, it's a positive.
Rob Senior, Gary and Steve are en route from Campbelltown. They'll be here in about an hour for the Claws Out show. Well, that'll be going live at about 7:45. But, Junior, I'm going to throw to you for the first try. After 5 minutes, we opened the scoring. It was Taruva. It was a nice combination from Madden and Adam Dewey. What did you make of that try?
Yeah, it was actually a great try. What I liked about it is 2 plays before, we took a settler to the middle, right in line with the middle of the post. I'm not a big fan, I'm sure Adel will touch on it in a moment, I'm not a big fan of when we settle right in the middle to split the field evenly, because I feel like our shape when we split the field evenly is pretty poor. With what happened, we run some shape to the left, we end up taking a settler just outside the left-hand post. It opens up that one side of the field that we knew we were going to attack. Everything's executed perfectly. I just think we run our shape so much better when we've taken the ball 10 metres to the left of the post.
Before you touch on the try, Coach, even before that, our first 2 sets of 6, we rolled down the field easily. I think Jock Madden, you said last week you wanted him to run the ball. He ran the ball twice inside the first 4 minutes. We really started with a lot of intent before the try.
Yeah, we dominated possession early in the game, which is a good one. I think one of the things we've talked about, especially early in the year, is being able to defend errors. And Fanua made an error, I think, early on in the game. I'm not sure if it was before or after the first try, but we defended that set. And that's probably been our Achilles heel this year at the moment, is whether we've given away a penalty or made an error early in the game, we haven't been able to defend it. So I think that was a big positive. But, yeah, I thought we started really well. We got on the front foot. Having the win in the first half probably assisted us with our yardage carries. But we'll talk about the numbers of the outside backs and the middle this week. But, yeah, I think we found a lot of success and a lot of joy going through the middle of that Knights pack.
Anything in particular in that first try that you wanted to pick out from Taruva?
No, I think it just reminds us that he's the world-class finisher. He's one of the best finishers in the game. Look, the shape wasn't great. Look, I'm going to be brutally honest and probably give us a little bit of a reality check. We came up against a really poor Newcastle left edge today. It's not very often in the modern day you see a coach hook a centre at half-time in a game. And I feel sorry for the young kid that played left centre for the Knights, but it wasn't actually completely him, to be fair. But, yeah, that left edge was really poor. Greg Marju's made those decisions all year and has been doing it for the majority of his career. It's just something he hasn't been able to improve. It reminds me a lot of our own Jarrell Skelton, if I'm being honest. But the good thing for us is we were able to capitalise. And even in that situation where Adam doesn't enjoy playing that shape, he readjusts his body, nails that pass in front of Tito, and Tito finishes like the world-class finisher he is.
In the 9th minute, that's when Pole made that error, Junior, and that was one thing we actually did a fair bit in the first half. We won't concentrate on many negatives today, but there were 6 errors in that first half and forced ourselves under pressure a couple of times.
Yeah, we did, but like Adel pointed out, we backed ourselves after the error as well. Defensively, I thought that was the strongest game we've had. I felt like they couldn't get down our end. Even Adel mentioned the win that we had in the first half. With that wind, I would have expected us to kick early, but it just felt like we were making so many meters that there was no need to actually utilise that wind in that respect. So, yeah, I just think defensively we absolutely suffocated them. And, yeah, to Adel's point, they were poor, but I want to give our boys credit. I thought we were just so strong on both ends of the field.
In the 11th minute, we make it 12 points to nil. Apisai Koroisau looks right a couple of times before he looks down, exaggerates a dummy, goes himself, crashes over. Coach, he would have identified that during the week. You mentioned Newcastle's middles and the fact they were a bit vulnerable defensively.
Well, it was more on the left edge, to be honest. So I'm not sure whether that would have been something they looked at during the week. I think sometimes, your peripherals as a dummy half are really important. And I think he looked up and seen the fact that, one, he didn't have any sort of runners on the outside. And usually what that does is it tells defenders there's no urgency in and around the ruck. And what his peripherals would have seen there was them sort of rise a little bit early, and that space would have opened up. And his ability to adjust his shoulders, fake the pass outwards. Fletcher Hunt, their fullback, and that's the modern day thing, a fullback sort of sitting at marker there on the try line. Again, rose a little bit early, and it gave him that space, and that was just way too soft. I don't think Justin Holbrook would have been too happy with that.
Appy, he even looked like in that first 10 minutes that he could see things, that he was going to have a big day.
Yeah, he's all class. I've said it before. I think he's our best signing since Gareth Ellis with that try. But I think the first try that we scored, like I said, just taking the settler to open up that right-hand side of the field. We did the same thing right before he scores. So Fletcher Hunt, yeah, he's in at marker, but I think he's getting ready to be urgent and get across the field there. And Appy's just too smart, throws the dummy, goes himself and scores.
Perfect start, Coach. Last 3 games we've been down 10 points to nil, but up 12-0 early. They would have spoke about during the week.
Yeah, I mean, you'd like to think that that's something they would have spoken about. The weight of possession probably dictated the fact that we needed to capitalise on them early. Junior, I will give us credit, right? I'll give us credit for everything we did today, but I'm also going to be a bit of a realist. I thought Newcastle were really poor, to be honest, Eddie. I thought I've seen some bad halves of football from teams this year. That first half from Newcastle was as bad as I've seen of any team this year. So, credit to us that we were able to capitalise on the opportunities that we've got. But also from a reality perspective, I'm sitting there and going, well, okay, what was the calibre of class of the opposition we come up against in that first half today? And it wasn't a shadow of what they've been doing the last couple of weeks in Newcastle, that's for sure.
All right, well, after 15 minutes, the West Tigers make it 16-0. There was originally a Apisai Koroisau grubber, which became a 6 again. Ricocheted off Newcastle. Newcastle were sort of at 6s and 7s, and Junior Appy fired the ball to Patrick Herbert, and Patrick Herbert they made a good one-on-one tackle on Patrick Herbert, and then he saw Taruva and he flings a gridiron pass, which I haven't seen in years, onto Taruva, who powers across for his second.
Yeah, pretty athletic of him. I thought we actually, I think it was mentioned by someone in the chat, we actually had him for numbers a couple times in that set. So it looked like we kind of made a mess of it, but I'm just glad that once he had his arm free, he was able to get that ball. What a ball. And credit to Herbert and our club actually for our signings. We've lost Toa, Taylor May, Tavana, and then we've got guys like Herbert who stepped in and they're just doing a great job. So like the boys say, it's next man up mentality, and he took his chance well today.
Unconventional pass, Coach, but it was on.
Yeah, I agree with Junior. We bombed that 3 times in that set. I think Jock on the first occasion, you've just got to be a little bit more composed on the first shift that he gets the ball. I think he might have jinked back and tried to run the ball. Uppy hit a lead on the next one, and I reckon he knew he shouldn't have and went out the back. Yeah, there was 3 or 4 times in that set we should have scored there. We almost bombed it, to be honest. And when you go back and look at review of that try, yes, there's a highlight play of a unconventional gridiron pass, but yeah, you're probably a little bit filthy with how we approached that set, to be honest.
Coach very critical of Newcastle, and I suppose fair enough because we were all over them, but you can only play against the opposition who's on the field, and we really like an issue last week we spoke about was opposition red zone and struggle to get across the line. But to score 3 tries in that first 15 minutes doesn't always look pretty, but the points were on the board.
Yeah, I see what Adel means about looking a bit clunky and stuff at times, but I actually completely disagree. I thought that was the best we've timed our runs when we've done the shape. I do completely agree with you, Adel. I don't think defensively Newcastle did anywhere near a first-grade job of defending us. Every time we ran shape. At the start, they were putting pressure on AD quite a bit out the back, and he was forced to just hold it, and then he was eating up meters, and then they kind of sat on their heels a bit. But like Eddie said, we can only play what's in front of us, and I thought every time we did run the shape, we made correct decisions, and we were very patient and disciplined.
Any rebuttal to that, Coach?
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with that, and that's why I said I'm glad we capitalised on our opportunities. But the reality of it is, like some of those tries, and we're going to go. I think the next one is the one, probably the most specific one I was thinking about. It wasn't even reserve grade stuff. It was almost the worst team in reserve grade type of defence on that left edge. And this is not me trying to be negative. This is just actually the reality of it, because we're in a position now where the expectation is going to continue to grow, and what we want to see from our boys is their ability to be able to break down defences, especially when defences have got good systems and they're fit into their systems. And we've got to be able to nail some of that stuff that we haven't been able to show yet.
Nearly a big turning point, Junior, after 20 minutes. Newcastle put in a kick into the wind, which sort of lands in no man's land. They get a bat back, goes to Greg Marzu, who puts in a second kick. Jareem goes back, fumbles the ball. Luckily, it touched Fletcher Sharp, or it would have been 16-4.
Yeah, well, I think after the Taruva try just before that, they kick off, and Taruva just gets to the kickoff. That's how big the breeze was. I think his dad points it out in the chat, like that's just Z grade to not be shallower there from Jareem. Definitely needed to be better. That wind was ridiculous, so he had to make that adjustment. But yeah, I'm just glad that we got a call from Ashley Klein, our favourite referee.
Jareem, he can look a little bit casual at times, Coach. Was he a bit lackadaisical going down to pick up the ball, or is that just a language sort of style that he plays in? It looks sometimes like a Mark Waugh in cricket, that he's being a bit casual there.
I think he was trying to be too aggressive in that moment. And what he tried to do was he tried to slide and pick up the ball so that he didn't stay upright and they couldn't drive him into the in goal. So I think you you have to take safety first in that situation. And then if you've got to back yourself to try to get out of the in goal, because of the momentum of which way he was coming from and the way the ball was going, his play there was to try to slide, grab the ball. And because once you're on the ground, they can't actually touch you or drag you into the in goal. But I think the priority's got to be to make sure he gains possession of the football first.
Just coach on Alex Twal, because I might have picked it up from your favourite commentator, Andrew Voss, but I think he mentioned that he had 8 hit-ups in that first 20 minutes. He really set the platform.
It wasn't just 8 hit-ups. It was he bent the line so many times. He sort of identified blokes in their line where he thought he could skip to their outside on a couple of occasions and poke his nose through and make a couple of 6, 7, 8 metres on the back of it. Mate, he was outstanding again today.
The forward pack as a whole is just going unbelievable. I know we haven't had time to really rattle off all the numbers, but I think Terrell May ran for over 200 metres. I think Pole and May both had 90 metres at halftime, and Twal had 120. They just completely dominated that middle of the field.
They did. I think Terrell had something absurd like 90 post-contact metres. Like, that guy's an absolute unit. I think all our forwards are great. Pole, yeah, he's got the error in him and all that sort of stuff. Fainu, did you see the Fainu put on? Who was it? He threw the bloke like 10 metres with one hand. Our forward pack's dangerous. I've said it ever since KPP came. We've got 2 edges that are dangerous. Our middles have pulled the finger out. And then we've got, in my opinion, the best hooker in the game, just running the show with them.
Starting front rowers today, Coach, Pole and May, was that their best games of the year?
They're both their second spells. I thought they both started okay. I think Twali laid the platform for us early. I think both of them sort of started with a little bit of I'm not sure what you call it. They were almost a little bit anxious in the way they were playing that first spell. It was different today, and I'd be interested to find out what happened to Sione, because obviously Sione got taken off at halftime and didn't come back on. So as soon as Terrell come on for that second spell, I thought he was really good. Same with Fanua. So yeah, they were much better in the second half, especially considering we asked them to play bigger minutes than we have the first couple of rounds, and they both did a really good job.
Well, against the run of play in the 29th minute, Newcastle do get on the scoreboard, Junior. It was a little bit of a controversial try. It was a right shift about 30 metres out from Sandon Smith, who tips it on, or Gagai tips it on nicely to Dom Young. Dom Young beats Jock Madden with a desperate attempt, and Dream Bullard does well to actually contact him, and looked like a suspicious put down to me.
Yeah, look, that's 2 weeks in a row. I feel like Jock's contact should have been a bit better when it came to tackling the winger in that situation. I don't know how that gets overturned. I mean, I've seen so many tries that go up one way where no matter how much evidence they have, they just refuse to overturn it. Ashley Klein, to me, it just seems like he absolutely hates our guts. Only the West Tigers could have that overturned.
Does he just hate the referee's guts? So Coach made the point in the chat that he seems to like to reverse
he loves the
on-field
attention.
refs' calls.
He definitely loves the attention because when he's refereeing, anytime he gets the chance to put someone in the bin, he will, just so that camera's on him for an extra 15 seconds. But yeah, we never benefit from him in the video. There's a couple of times in the video. There was even a point later on. We'll get to it. It was one of our tries. It took him like 5 minutes to confirm it. There were multiple angles that show the ball on the ground. I don't know what his problem with us is. Someone must have pissed him off. So,
just on Klein, Coach, I mean, like, I don't know why they have to freeze frame that and play it at 1/1000th of a second motion. Why can't they just play it at full speed? It looks like he bounces the ball.
Yeah, it's a no try. It's a clear no try to me. Common sense that. I'm not going to mention the bloke's name because he's a moron. Let's just move on.
Anything in that try that we could have done better when they shifted and created numbers for Young?
No, I think we actually defended that really well. I think Hamasi and Jarrell made a good decision there. That's the type of stuff, that the execution of Gagai being able to quick catch and pass to Young with really good depth and knowing that they'll have the momentum. That's the sort of stuff I want to see from us a little bit better, that I don't think we've been doing very well. The part of that is exactly what Rob said. Jock's got to be better in that situation. The whole system of why you defend that is so that those two guys can jam, you double defend as a half, and then if the situation comes, you can make that tackle. He's got to make that tackle. That's 2 weeks in a row now. He's missed the execution on that tackle, and it's really important he does that. I thought Jareen did a good job to get to the corner there. I think he did a good enough job, but obviously in the end it wasn't good enough.
Newcastle missed the conversion. 32nd minute, Junior Taruva makes a really nice line break off a kick return, fires it to AD. We don't get a result in the ensuing set of 6, but in the 35th minute, we make it 22 points to 4. A fairly simple right shift, but we strip them numbers easily. Patrick Herbert goes through dummies and ends up scoring under the post.
Yeah, I think that's the try where Adel's talking about how poor the defence from the Knights is. I completely agree. When Adam gets the ball out the back, someone should have been right up there in his face. I love the way that we ran that shape, but still, like you said, you can't control what the defence throws at you, only what's in front of you. I felt Jock actually almost blew that if it wasn't for such poor defensive read from Newcastle. He held the ball a little bit too long going into the line there for my liking. But then to have two people switching off AD, hold the defence up and then get an easy try.
You're saying, Coach, that was more bad Newcastle than good Tigers?
Yeah, there was two parts to it, and I agree with Rob. Jock, and I talked about this, I'm not sure if I talked about it on air last week or not. Jock is playing direct, but he's trying to do it in a way where you're not skillful enough to be able to do it. And he's passing the ball off his inside leg when he's squaring up. And I think Andrew Johns might have talked about it at some stage this morning. He's got to be able to get onto his outside leg so that the power out of that pass means he can put the pass in front of his tail runner, in Adam, in that situation. Because those passes where he's squaring us up is really going high and above his head. So he's almost taking away the whole idea of squaring him up is making sure the defenders can sort of realign and adjust, and it takes time for them to get back across and help. Because of how poor the pass is, they're getting that time to be able to move. Wilson De Courcy, I think he got hooked because of that. That was one of the most horrendous decisions I've seen defensively from somebody. There was absolutely no reason for him to jam in, and he does. Put it this way, if that was a training, we wouldn't even let Jareen keep running. We would have stopped the play and looked at the defence and gone, what are you doing? And like I said, and exactly what Junior just said then, you can only play what they do in front of you. But I'm sitting there looking at that and going, that's just horrendous.
Just touching on Jock digging into the line as well. When we run that shape where KPP is running that lead line for AD, by playing too direct, he only has two options. He's got KPP short, or he's got AD out the back. You see a lot of halves like Cody Walker, when they get it, they run it like straighten up, then they go at the angle. And then there's that third option of throwing it across Adam's face and throwing a tunnel ball straight to the center. If Newcastle were better defensively there, they jam on Adam, and then hitting the center is the right play there. But like Adel said, you can't do that when you're playing that straight.
Coach, Patrick Herbert, his game itself, obviously it was a late change today. Tavana was out injured and he slotted into the centres. I think he was playing park football in the Illawarra a year or two ago. So we've spoken about next man up mentality, and it's probably been words more than actions in the last few years with the West Tigers, but it's not the case this year.
No, I'm so happy for him. I mean, that was probably the perfect kill to give him today, a young rookie on debut in the centres. And obviously the fact that we got to dominate possession, but I thought he did a really good job. Even defensively, I thought he handled himself pretty well. But for him now, it's being able to do it week in, week out, for every single time we ask. And this is the thing, and Junior talked about it earlier, the fact that our depth means we get someone who's played quite a bit of first grade coming in to fill in a gap for us. Just like we've had Jock do it. We've had Patrick Herbert, obviously looking forward now. You're looking at someone like Alex Seyfarth's probably going to come in next week and cover for other blokes. And when you've got those sort of guys, they're your depth. They're the guys coming in, covering for your starters. Well, that means we're in a good position.
I don't know Patrick Herbert, but he looks like a pretty exuberant character. I thought it was a bit leery, that try, the way he put it down and stuff. But I suppose that's the character of the team that Benji's building. They're not afraid to express themselves. They look like they enjoy each other's company, and that was a popular try, that one.
Yeah, he looks like a kid that watches Benji Marshall highlights and then goes and tries to do all of them in one game. Like, there was a couple of times he pushed passes he probably shouldn't have pushed, but I just loved the look of how excited he was to be with the boys and the fact that he did a good job. Yeah, he made a couple of errors, but he did a lot of things that were great. And as Adel said, we've got some good depth this year.
There were a couple of times there, Coach, that Junior mentioned that I think he nearly went over the sideline about on halfway and tried to push the ball inside. Was there a couple of times maybe it's just the adrenaline gets the better of him there?
Yeah, and I think he's seen the opportunity and attacked it. And I'm pretty sure that's one of the things Benji talked about is, expressing yourself in the best way possible. And, when you've been out of the game for such a long time, or NRL level for such a long time, and you get your opportunity, you want to try to take it with both hands. So, can't really fault him too much. Boys, while I've got you, is a score update from Campbelltown Stadium in the New South Wales Cup. It's Newcastle 14.
Can't get enough
Western Suburbs. Western Suburbs 4. Stafford Toa scored the first try after 2 minutes. So that's a positive.
Okay. Is any of the players in that six-man bench that didn't get on backing up in that game?
Yeah, so Tristan Hope started the game.
Right.
It doesn't look like that Tony Suka's not in the 17. So I'm guessing that would be off the back of Samuela coming off and Sione coming off. I think Benji would have made a decision then and say, you're playing next week. We can't risk having you getting injured in the cup game today.
Fair enough. In the 38th minute, Junior, we don't get a try, but there's a bomb put up on the right-hand side. We end up shifting it left, and does Macassini bomb the try by not passing it to Skelton, or did Gagai sort of go for the intercept and Ashley Klein intervenes once more?
Yeah, he did the right thing to throw the dummy. Gagai was playing the intercept. I would have liked him to have passed straight after the dummy. Like, he takes Gagai out of the play once he throws the dummy, then give it to the winger. You don't need to beat one or two people to score. In fairness, though, he scores. Like, there's Dom Young's hand. It's like the back of his hand here touching like the back of his neck or something. Like, it's not enough for it to be called a tackle.
I won't ask you about Ashley Klein again, Coach, because you made your feelings pretty clear about him. But Macassini himself, did he make the right decision there, or could he have passed a little bit earlier?
No, he made the right decision because he scored the try.
Fair enough.
As far as I'm concerned, there was because sometimes when those guys are really covering really hard, sometimes it's the easier bloke to tackle as the bloke in the corner. He just scored that. That's just ridiculous. But anyways.
And, Coach, in the 39th minute, just on the stroke of halftime, we really go for the throat and make it 28-4. I think it was, again, shifting Appy onto Jock Madden, who digs into the line, and then AD onto Buller, who cruises straight past DeCourcy.
Yeah, and that one's a little bit different because I think that's probably one of the ones I'm going to sit there and give the boys big credit for. There was theory around why we did that. We had two angle runners coming back against the grain. And basically what that does is that will hold the defence up. And I actually think Newcastle defended that pretty well in the sense that they stayed squared for a long period. What needed to happen from a Newcastle perspective is Greg Marzer, who loves the jam, probably needs to help DeCourcy there once Jareem gets on the outside. But that's the Jareem we love to see. He's very hard to stop when he gets on the outside of someone like that. And he scored quite a few tries in his career doing that. So, yeah, big tick to the boys in that situation.
You were nodding your head a lot then.
Yeah, it's funny. He literally said everything I've written down there. So I was shaped to perfection. Ball out the back to AD, followed by two switches to hold the defensive line. Stripped him for numbers like Prime Benji. Executed perfectly.
There you go.
That's not even stripping for numbers to me. That's creating a bit of an option, but putting Jareem in the position that we want him to be in, where he's on the outside of a centre and he's being able to use his speed. So it's not so much about the numbers we're able to create. It's actually about putting the guys with their strengths in the right position where they're able to take advantage of it. And that's what we did in that situation.
Well, Coach, 5 first-half tries. They walk off to a standing ovation. I saw it on the screen at Campbelltown. You mentioned the 2 most important stats you think in the game, possession and completion. We had 64% possession at halftime, so we made it count.
Yeah, and that's where you've got to be ruthless. I mean, that other dickhead that was in commentary, Andrew Voss, was carrying on about
we
it
got
all
Andrew
game.
Voss every week this year, I think.
Oh, mate, geez. He was cheering Newcastle a lot in the second half, but just talking about how possessions normally even themselves out. No, the quality teams and the good teams, what they do is they're relentless and they continue to complete. The big thing for me is what our completion rate in the second half was. I know we're going to extend on it, but the reason why we talk about the domination of possession is because of your completion rate. And that's where the impressive thing was for me. When 81% completion rate our first half was our poor half, that's a positive.
Is that a message, do you think, Coach, at halftime when you're going against the win in the second half and you're already up by 24 points? Do you play a little bit more conservatively, or do you just think it's just, you're still attacking, even though you're 5 tries up?
You're being efficient is probably the key, and you dotting your I's and crossing your T's and making sure everything we've talked about all week we start to execute a bit better. We don't worry about the scoreboard. I mean, just because the scoreboard says something. The reality is, what's our performance been like in that first half? Have we ticked the boxes that we've talked about all week being able to do? And that, I'm sure, as you mentioned earlier, 6 errors in the first half wouldn't have been the plan. So I think Benji would have been on top of that at halftime.
First 15 minutes of the second half, Junior, we sort of dominate without adding to the score. But again, Newcastle, we keep them pinned in their own territory.
Yeah, we did. I think first set out of the half, Madden grab a kick for a repeat set, and then they get the ball back off a dropout that, to be honest, there's nothing we could do about there. Bounces before the 10. I'd like the rule to be changed, if I'm being honest, with the kickoff and dropout.
I was going to mention that. It was
I'd love for the
attacking team should be able to
pick it up early. Because there's nothing you can do about kicks like that. If the attacking team can receive it, it's actually a rule that they have in OzTag that they brought in a couple of years ago. And yeah, I think if we were able to attack the kick early, we'd probably stop that. But yeah, we kept them pinned down in their half, and yeah, it was good to prevent them from using that win that they had.
Similar to last week, Coach, out of the sheds against Parramatta, I thought the first 15 minutes of the second half, we really set the line speed with defence and got in their face, and looks like that first 15 minutes, even though we didn't add to the score, we kept them really pinned down, and our first contact was great.
Yeah, we're definitely attacking with our contact. That's the one thing noticeable about us this year. And this happened throughout the whole game. The other thing I noticed about us today is I think we've been really disciplined. I'm not sure if it's a tactic and this whole new disruptor garbage that's going on, but I feel like today we put those kicks into corners, those high kicks, and blokes like KPP and Samuela were chasing, but they weren't actually contesting it. And I reckon the whole, the muddy areas around that disruptor probably meant we're probably saying, hey, listen, don't worry about going up and contesting and giving away a penalty. Let's let the bloke catch the ball, let's swamp him, and let's start it from down there, because we are attacking the game with our defence. So if we can take one play out from them, dictate where they're playing the ball on tackle 1 and win tackle 2 and tackle 3, I think we'll take that in regards to going for a sort of a 50-50 contest in regards to a high ball. So I think that's where a lot of our discipline has been this year, is our ability to be able to say, we're going to give you the ball 10 metres out from your own line, and we're going to win tackle 1 and tackle 2 with our physicality. And that's been really impressive. And I thought that was the most evident thing in that first 15 minutes of the second half.
It's not just that, it actually goes further than that with the discipline. Adel, you notice, like there was AD not contesting his own kick in the first half. There's KPP doing it, Samuela. And then not just that, the line speed on tackle 1 and 2 from us is borderline offside. And then you see, once we've got them pinned on their 10 after 2 tackles, you see that we actually invite them to make some meters, just so that way we're not giving away a penalty or a 6 again. And credit to Benji for that, because that's got to be coaching. Like that, we've got a bit of IQ and smarts this year that we haven't had in previous years.
We're also really good at the moment at the levers. So the levers on players are sort of the traps sort of between the elbows and the shoulders, where they're able to sort of just hold the bloke after contact, because you're not allowed to lift up a leg anymore. You're not allowed to really pick anyone up anymore. And when we do pick them up, they're calling held. What they're doing is they're just holding their levers up from their elbows and basically dragging them back that extra couple of meters, turning their body into a position where when they have to get up and play the ball, they're having to twist. So it slows that play the ball down even more. So really good detail in what we've done in the preseason, obviously, but how we're executing it defensively as well.
As a former referee junior, it was good to see an on-field referee stay out of the picture today. I think coaches mentioned discipline. I think we only gave away 1. Newcastle maybe no 6 against.
Yeah, Newcastle didn't give away 6 again. We gave away 1. I think the game was better for it as well. There was actually a lot of penalties in the game. I got the stats here somewhere. I think it was like 5-2 or something like that. So yeah, I prefer when they blow penalties instead of the 6 against.
Coach, in the 55th minute, we make it 32-4, the first point of the second half. Again, it's Jock Madden onto Adam Dewey, who throws a beautiful sort of looping pass. He sees Greg Marzu coming out like a madman again off his wing, and it's a simple finish for to River.
Yeah, look, I'll be honest, that shape concerns me. I mean, yes, it worked today against a winger like Marzu who does that, and I'm hoping that it's strategic. I think against the good teams, that sort of long ball, when teams stay square and are really disciplined with how they defend their edge D, when you throw a long ball and it's in the air for that long, if they don't have jamming wingers, well, the shape of when you've got width and your wingers sort of holding the sideline is a lot easier to defend. So I'm just hoping from our perspective that's just a plan in regards to today and how we attack the Knights, especially Marzu on that left-hand side of theirs. But again, great execution from the boys. It's a beautiful ball from Adam, and that world-class finish from Tito again in the corner. I don't know if any of our other wingers score that, to be honest.
I think he had a pretty mixed game last week, Adam, but you look at his stats today, over 200 run metres, couple of try assists. He was in everything.
Yeah, I thought he was great. I thought he was patient. I actually disagree with Adel about that shape he ran there, Adel. I actually loved it. I love the fact that we ran the ball on last tackle because I think that shows us attacking with our defence. We figure we'll run that shape, and if they stay out onto River, we'll take the tackle in the corner and we'll back our defence. So I actually don't mind the game plan, the fact that we did it on 5th tackle. If we had done it on 3rd tackle, you sort of get cornered into, I have to score, I'm going to go out. But on 5th tackle, I like the aggressiveness of it.
I don't think it's necessary. When I talk about the shape, I mean our positioning and how we start our attack. So having your winger sit out on the sideline makes it very, very easy to defend against the good teams.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying about that sort of stuff. Absolutely, we want to run the ball on last. I think it's probably a better option. We did it quite a bit in the second half as well, and we finished the ball in the corner. It's more about our start points and how we're running our shape with, their spacing and our starting points in particular.
Coach, we spoke about it on Tuesday. There's rumours that Jerome's going to be back as soon as this Saturday. They're playing such specific roles, Jock Madden and Adam Dewey, and they're 3 wins in a row. And obviously Jerome comes straight in and starts at number 6. But who's your halfback next week? Is it still Adam?
Yes, absolutely. Today confirmed that for me. I think if Jerome plays today, we win by a bigger margin, to be honest. Today's the type of game where when you have a dominant, when you've got possession like this, you need the class of his. I think we score so many tries today. I think as much as we talk about Adam and Jock being organisers, Jerome's our vocal voice. And Jerome's got better IQ than both those boys, trust me. Okay? I think in the game like that today, I think actually Jerome shows us why he needs to be, not why he needs to be, it was never really a question, why he's so important to us with our attack. Adam is such a force in attack in how he can run the football. It just makes sense. The style of football we're playing at the moment, Adam and Jerome, 100% our halves. I sort of was a little bit in, umming and ahhing last week, but I'm not this week. It's pretty.
Who plays the 7? Who does AD assume Jock's role?
It doesn't matter, mate. To be honest,
I think we learned from
Adam wore the 7. It doesn't really matter who wears what. Adam and Jerome build up a pretty good combination. I still think we would have won the game against South if the injuries didn't happen. I think they would have got the job done in the back end of the game. I don't think it matters. I just think they'll play their roles what they need to. The difference will be is Adam will do a lot of the kicking. That's all.
I think with Jerome and Adam there at the start of the year, we were playing a lot of Jerome on the left, Adam on the right. I think what we learnt from today is once Jerome's back, both of them need to be playing both sides of the ruck the way Jock and Adam are.
I don't necessarily agree with that. I think that Jerome will naturally, just like Adam naturally prefers, especially in attack, will go to the right-hand side of the field. I think he naturally prefers that. I think Jerome just naturally prefers the left. I think Jerome's ability to be able to link both sides is probably going to be the key. But I don't necessarily think we have to play the swinging shape with both halves. We've just got to figure out with those two boys as our halves what the best system is. And they'll figure it out as we go.
58 minutes in, Coach. Newcastle will get their first try of the second half, make it 32 points to 10. A solid grubber from Sandon Smith. Skelton was going to be tackled in the in goal, but he, out of the corner of his eye, he sees Macassini and had some ambition to do something there. Maybe he should have just tucked it under the arm.
Look, I don't mind. The player love the confidence. But when you're a metre away offloading the ball to a bloke that's next to you, you've got to throw it to his chest. At the very least, if Hamasi drops that, that's on him. He threw it to his, sharp to his bottom, sort of below his hip. So, yeah, if you're going to be confident and you're going to nail that play, because you know what, we can't have it both ways. If he passes the ball, Hamasi gets out of the in goal, we go, what a brave play. So we sort of can't have it both ways. But, yeah, look, I mean, hindsight now says we probably don't want him to pass the ball, but I'm going to be a little bit harsh on Jarrell, and I have been the last couple of weeks. I think today's shown there's a reason why he hasn't been in first grade and why Benji made those calls early in the year.
Skelton's game overall today?
Yeah, not much about it. I don't think he's a first choice outside back for us. I know a lot of people are hating on Luke Lauliti, but I think Lauliti's a better option than Skelton when he's fit.
What do you do next week if Tavana and Lauliti are both fit?
Oh, I think Tavana is ahead of both of them. I think just the fact that he's an aerial threat, it's better to have him in the side. That's always good to have in the back pocket. But, yeah, like I said, whoever Benji names, I have faith in.
Tries galore in this game at Campbelltown in the 62nd minute. West Tigers make it 36 points to 10. Again, through the hands, Madden AD, who throws it to Ruva, Coach, who's on one leg, and he sort of just flings it back inside to Buller. And what I loved about this is Buller just pinned the ears back. He really wanted that try.
Yeah, again, not one of your structured tries in regards to the finish, but what we're seeing from our boys is we're always alert, we're always alive, and we're attacking the game. So that's sort of what I talked about in regards to that shape where your winger's sort of sitting really wide. If someone doesn't jam like they didn't in that situation, it makes that pass a little bit easier to defend, which they did. Because the ball's in the air for such an amount of time, they're able to sort of get off your inside foot, get to your outside foot, and go and defend. If Tito was 100%, would he have scored? I'm not sure. But, yeah, explosive finish from Jareem, and it took him 7 hours to confirm the try. Ridiculous.
66th minute, it's Terrell May Jr., and it's just brilliant deception from Apisai Koroisau. I think he had one or two forwards both going through there, and Pole ran the dummy, and he passes it to Terrell, who just goes over untouched.
That was perfect timing by Pole and by Terrell May. I think Pole even scores. I know they all went to Pole, but I felt like he just had that much wind up in his run that he probably gets over himself as well. How good's Appy? Seriously. We are absolutely stuffed without him.
You mentioned on Tuesday, Coach, that it's a joke that he's not in the origin conversation, and that was a play that I felt like a couple of years ago we were getting a lot of joy off, and I think you said Stefano has scored a few tries off that. Wouldn't be surprised if we get a few more off that sort of play this year with the creativity of our hooker.
Yeah, I don't think he cares anymore, but once again, the disrespect. I mean, if that was Harry Grant that played that performance today, it would be everywhere and anywhere, and they'd be talking it up like, he's the next, he's going to overtake Cameron Smith. It's just ridiculous. It really pisses me off, but hey, it is what it is. That's the ultimate disrespect try, that one, where you can run a play 5 meter or 1 meter out from the try line, get a front rower running a block shape with your 9, and he goes over in a gap of about 5 or 6 meters untouched, points up to the crowd and just falls over like he's playing in the backyard. I loved the arrogance of that try. It was brilliant.
Under Benji Marshall Jr., a lot of our signings, the players have actually elevated their own game, which wasn't a trait of West Tigers under previous coaches, but none more so than Apisai Koroisau. And even those first 2 wooden spoon years, he was probably our best player. Is he our best signing since Gareth Ellis?
Well, yeah, I said it earlier. I think he's our best signing since Ellis. I actually think credit to Benji for the culture change that he's had, because we all saw the difference in class between Appy and the rest of our side when Madge was the coach, when he first came over. But now it looks like all 13 players on the field are giving performances to the level that Appy is. Obviously, Appy's probably more important than others because, Tristan Hope's our backup hooker and we're a completely different side if he plays 9 as opposed to Appy. But yeah, him and Luai and Benji, they've just completely changed the culture of this club.
I don't know if they copped criticism last year, but there was a bit of debate, Coach, whether we should have invested in Talon de Silva, and re-signing Appy till the end of 2028 was a bit of a risk, but those people are probably looking a little bit silly now.
Yeah, they're the same. I'm not going to call our fans idiots. Sorry, I shouldn't say that. They're the same people that'll sit there and say to you, Jerome should come off the. I read someone in our comments today. Jerome should come off the bench next week if he's just if he's unselfish and just sort of weird stuff like that. Where I sit there and I think to myself, why do we get so caught up in this sort of stuff? Class is permanent. That's the one thing you cannot replace in this game, class. And if you think someone's had a good performance, well, that's great, but can they do it week in, week out for 24 weeks straight like these other guys have done it? And the answer is no until they show us they can do it. So they'll have to wait their time.
Junior, I don't have copious notes about the last two tries because I think my pen ran out of ink because there were that many tries going on. But Newcastle do get to, I suppose you could call it in garbage time after the game's over. But I suppose that's something for Benji to work on during the week, just that last finish of the game.
Yeah, I only saw the second last try where Hunt outleaps Buller. That was just great willpower from Hunt. I think, we gave an 80-minute performance defensively, but the tries that they scored at the end, there's not much that we could have done about. Teams are going to score tries against you. You can't be perfect every week.
The Trey Mooney try is a very disappointing try. That try cannot happen.
I had to drive you.
That was the equivalent of Uppy's try for Terrell May. Basically, he went through one touch the middle of the field. That's the only try I'm sitting there. I'm pretty disappointed about if I'm Benji. I think I don't know, and this will be the challenge is identifying for the players that with all the injuries we had at the back end of the game and the reshuffling and Uppy coming off and all that sort of stuff. We probably didn't handle that period of the game really well. The challenge now is obviously being able to make sure that if we get in that position again, we handle it a lot better.
Probably coach didn't feel like a game where they almost deserved to score 22, but it is only 92 points conceded in 5 games, so that's about 18 a game. Like that'd be a good average back in 2019 or 2020 before the 6 again rule came in. If we can keep it around 18 points a game, we're going to win more games than we lose.
Absolutely, we are. I guess it's the most impressive part of what we've been doing, and I reckon the majority of the tries we're conceding at the moment, we're conceding them where we probably should be conceding them, around our rookies and around guys that don't normally play together on edges. So, yeah, couldn't be more pleased from that perspective, but also identifying that we've got a lot to work on. And I know today I might have come across as a bit positive. That's probably the coach in me. You look at today and you think of today as being probably one of the more authoritative performances we've had this year, but this is where you don't want to be. You don't want to be too complacent off the back of this, especially from a mindset perspective. Going into next week, knowing the injuries the Broncos have got, I think this week is going to be about being ruthless in regards to our reflection of this game.
Any other players you want to mention out of today, Junior, or anyone out of the bench, or we gone through it all? Who was your 3, 2, and 1? The boys will do it on clause out later, but did you have a man of the match for today?
Yeah, I think, I don't want to give 3, 2, 1. I just want to mention 3 players.
Yep.
Put them in whatever order you want, but Alex Twal, Apisai Koroisau, Terrell May. I'll give a 4th, actually. I'll mention Adam Dwayhe. That bloke's a freak. So, yeah, all the boys are playing well. It's hard to give out these 3, 2, 1s every week when you see so many people lifting. Like, it was so easy a couple of years ago to just say Appy every single time and Jerome last year and Jareem. But this year we've got 19 players that want to play for the club. So, yeah, it's very positive.
Coach, how are you spreading the points this week?
That man again gets my 3 points, our number 9. I thought he was the standard. He was the benchmark of everything we did today. I'm giving it, and this is the difference between when I rate and watch Adam's game. I'm giving Adam 2 today. I thought his involvement, his application, and his ability to stand up at different moments of the game, not with the big plays, but the effort play that he come up with. There was a couple of times there on tackle 4. He took the tackle 5 play to sort of get us quick play the ball so then Jock could kick on tackle on the last play. I thought he was so impressive. And Alex Twal gets 1 point for me. Again, he set the standard for us earlier. I didn't think Terrell and Fanua started the game as good as he did, and I think that laid the platform for us.
Perhaps the only concerns out of the game were potentially a couple of injuries. We saw Taruva hobble through the last 20 minutes. We hope he's okay, but Samuela was down the tunnel with a knee injury. I don't know if there's been any reports out of that, but he'd have to be a concern for next week.
Yeah, he'll be a concern, and his brother Sione as well, only playing 18 minutes. I didn't see why he came off or when he came off, but not having 2 of the 3 Fainus next week will be pretty upsetting. I know Brisbane are depleted, but they're both so vital to our teams. What Sione brings off the bench is irreplaceable. Royce Hunt's done a good job of bringing that energy off the bench as well. And Samuela, like, what are we going to do, Suka or Seyfarth on the left edge. I mean, I'm sure they'll do a job with the next man up mentality, but I highly doubt they'll do Sam Weller's job.
Who starts for you on the left edge, Coach?
Say Farf will start if that's what if Samuel is down. Sione, I've seen a clip of Sione that was walking, was fine. So it's going to be interesting to find out what's happened there. We didn't obviously get a chance to listen to Benji's press conference. So I think the boys on the next show will be able to give a bit more information.
Broncos, Raiders, Sharks, Storm. We would have looked at that in the past, Junior, and gone, I might go overseas for a month and come back, but nothing to fear.
Well, if you judge them on last year, it's a hard draw. It's actually the part of the season where I looked at before our season started and I said we really need to get off to a good start the first 6 rounds because rounds 7 up until the bye are going to look pretty grim. But this year, none of those teams are really informed. Broncos are sitting 11th, Raiders are 15th, Sharks 10th, Storm 13th, bloody Manly are 9th. Like Manly's technically on ladder position.
All those teams, Coach, I know you're going to say, and you're right, they should be worried about the West Tigers, but of all those 4 teams, Broncos, Raiders, Sharks, Storm, which one with their style of play could cause us the most headaches?
Broncos next week because that's who we play next.
That's Coach's answer. The
very
cliche answer.
That's a danger game for us next week. Like, we're blessed that we haven't had to play the Knights with Kalen Ponga this weekend and Reece Walsh next week. We've got to take advantage of that. I actually just got sent something. The Broncos have got Alblix, Toya, Adam Reynolds, Ben Hunt, Billy Walters, Blake Moser, Corey Pakes, Deloise Hoyter, Grant Anderson. Jack Kasevsky's not right because he's playing cup with us. Paddy Carrigan and Reece Walsh all out next week. I mean, I'd say, 3, maybe 4 of those guys are Origin Australian representative type players. They're probably the key to that side. We got to take advantage of that next week.
I don't want to bring up nightmares of that game in 2002, the baby Broncos under, I can't remember, was it Craig Bellamy as interim coach or something that
Craig
day?
Bellamy,
yeah. But going in as favourites against the Broncos, it's just so exciting for our fans, Junior, on a final note. To be 4-1, we're not, we are second on 4 and against, but we're equal first with the Panthers. Unfortunately, they play before us next week, so I assume they'll probably beat the Dolphins, but who's to say? If they get knocked over, we could be first on Saturday night.
Yeah, look, as Adel said, next week's our most important game because it's the next one. But getting through to the bye is going to be a real test for this team because straight out of the bye, round 13, we've got the Bulldogs, which I know we'll be up for, but they're not going to go down easy, especially at that time of the year. And then we get Penrith during Origin. But again, they're 2 teams where the rivalry's there. Both teams are going to be up wanting to beat us, especially because, we'll probably have high hopes with the run that we've had. So, I know it sounds Captain Obvious, but I just want to get as many wins as we can before that bye because it's such a crucial period. You see teams, once they have a bye, they don't really come out the same. I'm just a bit worried about that period of our season. So,
Coach, when's the next time you get on a plane down to Sydney?
I'll be at Leichhardt Oval for the Thursday night game against the Canberra Raiders. Coming with guys from work who aren't West Tigers fans, but the experience of Leichhardt Oval is something that even non-West Tigers fans have to be a part of. So, I'm glad we've already got our tickets because I don't know if that game's going to have any tickets left even before 2 weeks out. So, that'll be when I'm down there next. But, looking forward to next Sunday night against the Broncos. That's going to be a really good challenge for us and not so much about them, more about us.
All right. Well, Coach, thank you so much for joining us on screen again. Junior, thank you for your time in the studio. Very happy time for West Tigers fans. 42-22 over the Knights. Stick around in about 5 minutes' time. The Claws Out boys will be live in studio.